This conference will now be recorded.
For joining us from Facebook and following us on over here. I apologize once again for the technical difficulties and thank you for sticking it out with us. Superintendent Reddick is online now if you want to say hello.
Hello, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, and maybe it's a good idea that you don't see my face. I'm wearing just this fuchsia jacket and flowery shirt. It probably doesn't look good on me.
Yes. Anybody, any of you guys listening on have questions and you want to just put them in the chat, then I'll make sure to read those out to Superintendent Reddick and get those answered for you guys. We've got a couple questions. I see you're already back online here with us, Donna Thornton, but she posted a question, Superintendent Reddick, on Facebook and said this is allowing seniors in good standing to be considered ready to graduate without further coursework. Will it be the same for Gadsden seniors? And what about seniors who are not in good standing?
Okay, so we have not posted that yet. I know there's a couple of counties, school systems who have. I think Huntsville and I think Morgan County or Marshall County, Madison County. I'm sorry. I think have already posted that. So more than likely we'll go through the same process. I think that's the reason we haven't just yet is because we want our seniors, who have already qualified qualified to graduate will be considered graduates. But the reason we're moving forward is because there are some seniors who have not yet qualified to graduate, and we want to provide them with that opportunity to make up any coursework that's needed for them to qualify to graduate. I think a lot of times when you make an announcement such as that, and in our case, in anybody's case, I would suspect those seniors who are responsible will just, go on about their business of getting ready for college. And we certainly want them to be able to do that. But we don't want anybody to become complacent about it and assume that they're already graduated with their third 9-week grade, for example, and not do the work that's required of them to qualify. What happens to us at that particular point, sometime later down the road, when a child has not qualified and does not graduate, we've got to contend with those parents, family members, or whomever who say, hey, you didn't give my child a chance to graduate, or you weren't very clear about who gets to graduate, who doesn't get to graduate, and so on. So to that question, those seniors who have already qualified to graduate, more than likely, next day or two, we'll make an announcement about declaring them graduates. I think that's going to be the trend around the state, but I just still want to make it clear that there are some seniors who have not qualified to graduate yet. So we've got until June 5th to get them qualified for graduation.
Okay, awesome. Once again, if y'all haven't the chat button if you're on a computer, it's on
I turned that off. Go ahead.
If computer, the chat button's on the in the top right corner. If you got questions and you want to post in there. Okay, so yeah, Heather just posted another one from our live. The question is, I read an article about free lunches for under 18 kids available. I have 2 kids at Highland School. Who do we contact? Everything is closed.
Okay, so Highland School is in the Etowah County school system. And if I'm not mistaken, we all 3 of our school systems, who are providing lunches for kids, probably not turning any child away. But now, due to the CNP rules and regulations and whatever have you, our obligation is to feed the children in our school system, those who are under 18 years of age. And if they're 18 years old and they're still in school, of course, we feed them too. But Highland School is in the Etowah County school system.
Okay. The next question that I've got, and once again, if anybody has questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'll just pass them back and forth to Mr. Reddick and we'll get all those answered for you. Okay, the next question is, Tony, what is being done specifically to enhance the old Gadsden High building in Murphy Stadium? I donated to the nonprofit you govern for that project and am excited someone has come to the forefront on it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because we have some plans for the old Gadsden High School, and needless to say, it's an older building. It's in need of some more cleanup and repair. And we have had discussions regarding old Gadsden High School. First of all, let me say this: it has been declared a historical marker from the National Historical Registry, and so we currently house our alternative school, as everyone pretty well knows. Recently, we housed the SPAN program, which has moved out. So we are focusing primarily on the library area right now and the courtyard area, that center courtyard area. We'd like to use part of that as a sensory learning center. And then, of course, we're concerned with obviously our students who may be experiencing some mental health issues. And so we want to incorporate something in that regard as well. I guess in a nutshell, I would like for it to become a more comprehensive alternative school program. Now, in regards to the stadium, you may be aware that in recent months, we did allow a local semi-professional or professional soccer team to play a few games there. But we had some issues at Murphy Stadium here regarding some flooding. And so that's been shut down. And of course, we're very thankful to the city of Gadsden for assisting with us getting that repaired. And so we're open to some ideas about the stadium. I've had things such as, hey, let's turn it into a nice little farm area to plant for some of our, like a really large, community garden, for example. And there have been a few people who have made some suggestions about it. But we are primarily focusing on it possibly becoming a more comprehensive alternative school. There's been a request for especially the gymnasium area to be turned into a recreation center. And again, those things cost money. And we appreciate the people who have responded and made donations and what have you. But it's a work in progress. Those are a couple of the ideas that we have in mind.
Okay, awesome. The next question I'm seeing is, how often will lunches be provided to students? Will they continue throughout the school year, through summer? What will registration for that look like?
Okay, good. Well, students should have had an opportunity to register on Tuesday for tomorrow's feeding, for example. We had a meeting with this District 6 superintendents, and I think we all pretty much shared the same concern about the lunch program in light of the reason we're having to do this all in the first place, and that's the COVID-19. Our service will continue after tomorrow on Tuesday. So on Tuesdays of each week, we will provide enough meals for the week for our students. Our problem and concern, obviously, is that that's a large undertaking. We served, I think, 2,188 students on Tuesday. That amounted to 8,752 meals that particular day. And certainly, we know that Etowah County serves over 30,000. They're a larger county, for example. Etowah County school system, they're much larger. So to get the manpower in there and to remain 6 feet apart and all those kinds of things is problematic at best. So to work out a system where we can recognize the social distancing and get meals prepared in a timely fashion, as I said, is problematic, but we're doing it. So we will continue serving lunch once a week. We'll be sending out surveys to confirm the number of people who would like to be served lunches, so as not to waste anything. And we'll be doing that throughout the school year. There may be some adjustments one way or the other, as in maybe more, maybe less, depending on how this virus continues to take its toll on us.
Okay. The next question I'm seeing is, how will students progress to the next grade? How can we make sure students without laptops or computers can work on their education?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great question. And I want to emphasize first and foremost that a lot of that is going to depend on our homes, our parents in those homes. So we have a continuous education plan that has been published and submitted to the State Department of Education already. Our directors, secondary education, Ms. Rhonda Perry, elementary education, Mrs. Sharon Menez, and our principals have all gotten together and prepared plans for that, which will require students to have some internet access. We're very fortunate to get a message yesterday that there's a website, www.internetessentials.com, that is providing free internet. You can sign up to get free internet for the next 60 days, okay? In addition to that, we all of our kids, I think I mentioned we're probably about 70% one-to-one in our school system. So our kids have the computers. We've also, Heather, in fact, submitted to me a list of local businesses who are willing to share their internet by way of their parking lots, of course. So we get that information out to any of the families, parents, homes who don't have internet access. You add that to the internetessentials.com. We should have enough internet access for anybody who chooses to use it. In the event that there is some other issue, as we said, kids can actually come to, the Gadsden High School parking lot, if I'm not mistaken, and access the internet that way. It just can't go into the buildings.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat at this time. So if anybody else has a question, and you can post it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask Superintendent Reddick. Okay, while we're waiting to see if there's any other questions, do you want to give an update on anything else, Superintendent Reddick?
Well, yeah, I think I sent a message, and this is more or less for the rest of our community to hear, understand. We had some concerns expressed to us regarding, teachers and staff entering our school building. And I won't give you the details of the letter that I sent out to my staff, but just want the public to know that we are definitely concerned about, COVID-19 and spreading of it in our community, and including obviously with our school teachers and staff. But Gadsden City Schools shut down all of its schools on March the 16th. Prior to that, those schools were cleaned, by their regular custodial staff. And so we, in order to mitigate that plan for continuous education, we allowed our principals to enter schools for the first time on Tuesday. Now that means that those school buildings have been shut down and sealed for 14 days. Our understanding from CDC and a number of other experts is that, virus such as this, if it's stagnated for up to 12 days, it dies. And certainly we just yield to the experts in that regard. In our case, that virus, if it existed in our schools, has stagnated for 14 days. So the assumption is that it's dead. The buildings were clean, and we're getting ready to, starting on tomorrow, or actually this afternoon after 3 o'clock, so maybe tomorrow, but certainly after 3 o'clock, we'll completely sanitize and or disinfect our school buildings. So the principals were allowed in on Tuesday, realizing that they needed to get materials from their offices to move forward with these plans. And we allowed our teachers up to 3 o'clock today to go into those school buildings to get what they need, with the emphasis on just getting what you need and getting out. We don't want teachers to congregate. When you see a colleague who you hadn't seen in 2 or 3 weeks, no, don't go hugging and talking and standing there too long. We give them about 15, 20 minutes. Get what you need and get out. But of course, there are some who are still concerned about, whether it's safe. And so it's hard in some cases to convince, it is safe, but we encourage our teachers or whomever going into the building to protect yourself. Unfortunately, and as most everybody knows, there are not a lot of PPE not a lot of PPE available. And if it is available, it probably needs to go to our medical professionals at our local hospitals, clinics, or wherever have you. So we ask anyone who's going inside, any teacher who's going inside the building, to protect themselves. Don't depend on the school system providing that protection, because we don't have it to offer. But most importantly, if there's any concern about going in, just simply don't go. They're not obligated to go. But what they are obligated to do is to fulfill the mission of educating our kids the best way they can online through the use of packets and what have you. Now, we have enough staff to supply and deliver those things that need to be delivered that are non-electronic. And so I want our staff to just trust what we're doing. Those people who are not comfortable with going into the school building, just don't go. Nobody's going to force you to go. And I think that at a time like this, it is very important for us to be very cooperative, very collaborative, understanding, empathetic, sympathetic, whatever it takes for us to get through this ordeal. It's going to take a unified effort on the part of all of Gadsden City Schools, employees and stakeholders. So, every day, obviously, out of nervousness and confusion and fear, something new is going to come up. But we have a great staff in Gadsden City Schools, and we really trust that, whatever is in front of us, we're going to be able to handle it. And when we look back behind us, we applaud the individuals, and especially the Chamber of Commerce, for what they've offered that a lot of people don't even know anything about, really, unless we just happen to mention it here. But what you've done to help us to have earned, gain the success that we have. So, we send a message out. It's not meant for the public because it's, kind of sounds a little stern, but it's because we're on the front lines from an educational standpoint. But I ask them to consider what our medical professionals are going through right now. And as I indicated to them, I've talked to one or two who has just shared stories that are heart-wrenching. And all we can say to them is thank you, for what you're doing, and we can pray for them. So if our staff, and when we say the buildings are closed, that excludes emergency personnel. Alarm goes off for any reason, then of course, the alarm has to be turned off by personnel. And then I'm going to consider our principals emergency personnel as well. So, we may find that principals have a side interest or something like that. They have to get in. We're okay there, but they're not going to contaminate. One person going in their office shouldn't contaminate the building. I think the most important thing to understand is that completely sanitizing and disinfecting buildings is a very expensive ordeal. So if we let a mass of people go in after we've done that, guess what? We got to do it all over again. Nobody knows when this emergency is going to expire. And so we want to take every necessary precaution while at the same time meet our requirement for ensuring that our students continue to be educated, continue to learn. And I think we've got a group that's working really hard at that. We just need everybody to do his or her part. Secondly, I want to mention, I think this is necessary, that obviously kids, they're probably going a little stir crazy right now. I think we used to call it cabin fever when we got locked in for days and couldn't go out. But if you are going out, you can't congregate, you can't play touch football, you can't do anything that requires you touching anybody or certainly talking too closely to anybody. No one knows who has been infected, because there are situations where someone's probably been infected but doesn't have any symptoms. No one knows. I mean, we just had our first recorded death, for example, in Etowah County. No one knows how that happened or any of those kinds of things. So it's necessary for us to observe social distancing. I think that is so important. And parents, as best you can, let's talk to our kids about the importance of social distancing, and see if we can avoid any further contamination here in our county.
Okay, perfect. I see the next question that I'm seeing here is, I think you kind of touched on this just a minute ago, but if you want to elaborate. Will work-at-home packets be provided for any students?
Yeah, work at home packets is an option, of course. That's really going to depend. Well, it's kind of a two-parter. It's going to depend on the teachers, what work assignments the respective teachers choose to send out. Now, I say it that way, but in reality, what we're trying to do is to be consistent around the entire system. Now, had I, hindsight is 2020. Had I thought of this earlier, we'd already be prepared. And we may already be prepared because, as I said, Mrs. Maness and Mrs. Perry and Mrs. Holland, Mr. Baeza, and I'm covering EL, special ed, elementary and secondary education. Those individuals, and forgive me if somebody else has helped whose name I didn't call, have done a fantastic job in preparation. So when I talk about hindsight, I probably would have assigned just a few teachers per grade level to design and create and design the package so that everybody gets the same thing system-wide. I'm not sure that that's not already happened based on some conversations that I've had. So to your question, yeah, where there's a need for a package to go out to a student or family, we'll be able to provide that for them. Primarily, instruction is going to be online. There'll be websites. There will be, we got Google Classroom for our upperclassmen, our high school students, for example. We've encouraged our students rather continue with our My on Reading, and there's an abundance of learning gadgets, if you will, out there that we will be employing in our system. But yeah, we'll be able to get packets out there. And let me respond to this question before someone asks it, okay? Because this is usually one question leads to another. There's concern about, okay, who's going to grade all those packets and all that? Because there have been people who say, well, I don't know if I want a packet because I don't know if the packet has been contaminated. Well, we don't know if the grocery store bags have been contaminated either, okay? But we are going to take every necessary precaution to make sure that everything that goes out is clean, and we're going to try to make sure that everything that comes back is clean. And then, of course, there are some school systems who are considering just using the third 9-week grading period for final grades. Certainly we're considering that, but at the same time, we realize that there are going to be some people who say, well, hey, my kid had a chance to make an A and made a B instead, or a C and made a D instead, or whatever the case may be. I'm just suggesting to everybody, teachers, parents, students, and whatever have you, we're in a crisis, and some things are, maybe diminish a little bit in importance, and I know it's important to the individual, but it diminishes a little bit under the circumstance because this is uncharted territory for us. I've heard I said this once, and I heard somebody else say it. We're kind of building the plane as we're flying it, and that's the unfortunate predicament we all find ourselves in worldwide. But to your question, the package, yeah, we will be able to provide packets.
Okay. The next question I'm seeing here is, you mentioned the kids' home atmosphere. Aside from the technology limitations in some homes, how do you propose to engage parents in this learning at home process? Many, especially elementary, are unwilling or unable to suddenly become teachers and make sure their kids are doing their assigned work.
Yeah, you know what? Every morning we wake up, and every household we wake up, in some of them there are kids being fed breakfast, and some of them they're not. Every evening we return home from school and spend a good reasonable amount of time playing. And some kids go to bed at 9 o'clock, and some go at 2 o'clock in the morning. There are certain things that we can't control as an education system other than to provide the opportunities for them. Now, on that note, because I think it's important that we say that, okay, because there's a lot of expectations coming to us and law enforcement and medical professionals and, all those kinds of things. Our parents are our teachers' first educators. If y'all will allow me just a second, I just have to share with you. I've got a 3-year-old grandson who is he's 3 years and about 5 months now, and his mom works with him every day. At 3 years old, he's already adding, subtracting. He's got an amazing vocabulary. Now, get what I'm saying. This is not to diminish anybody else's situation or brag on mine. Okay, it's just simply to say that parents must get involved in this case because your kids are at home. Now, to your question, we have required our teachers to stay in contact with the parents, call them, Facebook them, text message them, Instagram them. I don't even know all those terms. I'm still a flip phone guy, really. But we've got various means of communication for those parents. Now, I would suggest that if there are parents who are struggling with it, make a phone call. There could be a parent struggling and a parent who's very successful 3 or 4 doors down from where they live. Now, they can't socially contact each other, but electronically they can. And so I love that question because that explains really what the problem is today, period. Not just in Gadsden, Etowah County, but around the country, okay? We're available to assist. We're available to provide. We can do just about everything but come into your house. We can drop stuff off on the front porch if necessary, but we're trying to avoid even having to do that. So I feel, I don't know whether it's best to say, because people don't accept the word sympathy very well, and I can't use empathy because I've not been there. Okay, but we will provide resources for those parents, and those parents who want to talk with someone personally for instruction, we'll do that as well. We can provide instruction for the parent to instruct the child.
Okay. The next question that I'm seeing is many think that when we recover, there will be long-term changes required, especially in large volume facilities. For example, we look at airports before and after 9/11. Do we have a new normal there? And we have a new normal there. Do you foresee any changes that constitute a new normal when classes hopefully resume in August?
I don't think there'll be anything newer than what's already been trending over the last few years. I mean, just the last couple of years, we've added things like, virtual school and credit recovery and those different types of things. And we've obviously added, because one of the things we've had for years is when co-op, for example. So for years, students have had some alternatives to education, even alternative school in and of itself. So I don't think that there's going to be necessarily a new normal other than maybe that first year of school, depending on when we return to school. We may have to pack a full quarter of a year into the other year. So what we do in one year, we have to do in a year and a quarter, and that was just a suggestion at some point. Joe Bennett says I'm on the line. That was just something we did, but I think school will go as normal once we do get back. The only question is, when will we go back? As I've indicated, we've been told that the school year will officially end on June 5th. There are some school systems who because we have the option to actually, change to go back to just regular May 26th or whenever have you. So we'll make that decision. But the key here is that the June 5th closing gives us the opportunity to make sure any students who are struggling have an opportunity to catch up. But as far as anything that's new and normal, I don't think anyone ever anticipated something as big as this pandemic. Now, we've had epidemics before, but this may be the first real pandemic in a long, long time. And from what I recall from, swine flu, bird flu, those kinds, everything just kind of went back to normal. Obviously fear remained in some cases because we just really didn't know, and that's just human nature, until someone tells us the coronavirus is completely wiped out, eradicated, and, nobody's going to feel comfortable about it, and there'll still be some suspicion. So I don't think there's any particular new normal, except that we are writing this plan in the event that something like this happens again. we'll be well ahead of the curve in regards to that. And I think we'll continue, because I said we've been trending all along. We'll continue to try to prepare our students and teachers and families for the pending next situation. Because hopefully it's not a virus. I know in Egypt, for example, not too long ago, and they had a swarm of locusts. Nobody had heard about that since biblical times. And so, whatever it is we end up having to do now is just kind of a plan or a program for us to prepare for a later event. But as far as normalcy, I don't think anything will ever be normal again, but we'll be better prepared.
Okay, and the last question I'm seeing in the chat at this moment is, I think that Heather's got that answered with a link, but it was about online AP exams. If you wanted to just give him any extra information you've got.
Give me that. Tell me that again.
The question was, do you have any information regarding online AP exams?
Okay. Yeah. Heather, you say Heather's already answered that?
Yeah, she posted a College Board link.
She did. Yeah. I was going to say that she did post that. And again, ACT has been canceled, postponed. We should be I think next Saturday, this upcoming Saturday would have been the next ACT test, for example, but they postponed that, and they don't do any online national ACTs or anything like that. But yeah, there is a web. We'll get that out. Heather's already submitted it, but yeah, AP exam. And listen, there are kids who are concerned about that, but I think colleges and universities are probably waiving some of that stuff as well. I mean, I don't think there's anybody out there saying, hey, who cares about the COVID-19? We still want you to, submit these requirements for admissions in our colleges and universities. I won't call a name, but I was very proud to get a call from a young lady a few weeks ago, not a few weeks ago, probably 5 days ago, announcing her acceptance into a major university here, and was awaiting some other acceptances and what have you. And she also shared me the ones that she was declined, and so I'm using that to say that at this particular point, I think colleges and universities are quite cognizant of what's going on right now, and they're probably going to relax some restrictions as well. So that's just to kind of maybe ease some of the tension and anxiety from some of our students, but that is not to suggest that you do not move forward with continue to try to do and be the best they can in terms of their preparing for college admissions. But we'll get that posted. We'll double post it, if you will, because I know Heather's already put something out there.
Okay. Okay, I just saw a new, that's not a question, it's just a comment.
Yeah.
Carl said that Alabama Community College System announced this morning that they are dropping their ACT and SAT requirements for this senior class. So,
yeah. Well, there you go. That's kind of what I just said, and we're grateful to them for being, wise enough to do that. Because the thing that I think that is important is that people understand that this is all about our students, and the most affected group here is our seniors. There are some, as I said, are still waiting for acceptance letters or scholarship letters, and even some of the scholarships that they're currently applying for, even those little small $500, $1,000, $2,500 local scholarships and whatever have you here. The new normal is we're in an abnormal situation, I guess. And so I hope that others will consider the same thing, and maybe not be so stern or strenuous in regards to, what's required this year. Kids may not be able to, access the individuals they need for letters of recommendation and can't go into school and get their transcripts or whatever else they might need. So I applaud Alabama Community College for that, and I would imagine that some of the others will follow suit.
Okay, yeah, I saw that the last thing that I have in the chat right now is that somebody missed the start of it and is asking where it all will be located. And yes, Heather did just respond and say we'll put it on our website under recorded webinars. And we're also going to go ahead and put this on our Facebook page because we know a lot of you guys were expecting to see us on Facebook Live. And so we're sure some other people will have wanted to see it there as well. But we're about at the end of the hour. So to be respectful of everybody's time, Superintendent Reddick, do you want to have anything else that you want to say to wrap us up?
Well, just as a wrap up, we just want to ask everyone to just, be safe. Yeah, I think there's no simpler two words than that, to be safe. I realize that this is a very anxious time for most people. Do not be surprised if somewhere along the way you discover that some friend or loved one or whatever have you has been exposed some way. Don't panic about that. We have trust in people and things that are far greater than we are. And so I think it's important that if everyone does his or her part in terms of the social distancing, everything that I've heard and read says that will kind of lower the curve a little bit. This is an unprecedented, and as our state superintendent even says, an unbelievable predicament we find ourselves in. And as far as the school system is concerned, I'll ask you to trust us in what we're doing. No, we're not going to please everybody. We already know that, okay? And that's not a slight to anyone. We just realize that some of these things just fall in that category we call human nature. We're not talking about any type of social Darwinism type stuff, survival of the fittest, any of those kinds of things. We're talking about people helping people. We're talking about families and friends and community people helping others. The ones who have more try to share with the ones who have less. I mean, I'm not going to use the political term that a lot of people like to throw out about that, but we're in a crisis, and every one of us. I think I said to our staff, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and so we can get everyone to kind of help out, which there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot more of that going on than any of us actually know. And so we're grateful for that. And we will continue to keep you as informed as expediently as we possibly can in the school system about everything that's going on. And I think we'll get through this situation, and we'll have reason to celebrate at some point. And the biggest celebration that I look forward to is somehow finding a way to graduate our seniors in a celebratory way as well, in a ceremonial and celebratory way as well. So be patient with us.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Superintendent Reddick, and your entire administration for all of the hard work that you're having to do and getting the word out so well. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in with us. Like we said earlier, we're going to go ahead and post this to our Facebook and to our website. So if you want to go and watch it back at any time, please feel free. So yeah, thank you again, and hope you all have a great day.
Thank you. Be safe.
This conference will now be recorded.